In this video, we're going to talk about market structures, and specifically the two kind of different ends of the spectrum. So you have monopolist competition and oligopolies, but we're just going to focus on perfect competition and monopoly, and specifically pricing decisions in those in those structures. So the first one we have is perfect competition. Just a little bit of a refresher. In perfect competition, you have many buyers and many sellers that are competing against each other. And with that, you have the market drive price to equilibrium. Okay. And so what we have here is we have our demand and we have our supply. And looking back to the discussion about supply and demand, we are saying that with perfect competition, if the price is above, it's going to get driven down. Above equilibrium, it's going to get driven down. And if it's below equilibrium, it's going to get driven up. And so what you're going to have is this equilibrium price. All right. Now, this is the market. You then have individual firms within that market. And within perfect competition, because the price is determined by the market, that price is set. And so the demand curve that each firm faces is going to be horizontal at whatever that price is. And so for here, the demand is going to be horizontal at the equilibrium price of 4. And so what firms do then is they determine how much output to produce at the level where the individual firm demand, which is the same as the price determined by the market, which is the same as the marginal revenue, when those are equal to the marginal cost. Okay. So that's perfect competition. Sports on a professional level in the United States is not perfect competition. In fact, it's pretty much to the other end of the spectrum, which is monopoly. So with monopoly, you have pretty much one seller of the good or service. Okay. And because of that, they have complete market power. Now, you can say that, okay, well, with sports leagues, you technically have many sellers. All right, so in the NFL, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, Pittsburgh Steelers, Las Vegas Raiders, Dallas Cowboys, so forth. You do, but they're not really competing against each other because you have the overall league, which really sets a lot of the rules and regulations for the teams. They set up the revenue sharing, which we'll talk more about later. But they also negotiate a single process or a single contract for television, as well as merchandise. Same with the other sports too. Now, the other sports do negotiate their own local contracts for broadcasting, but that's really, it's still not much competition there because they're not competing against any other Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, those other teams for those rights. So when you have, again, a perfect competition, the price determined by the market. With monopolies, on the other hand, the firm determines the price. And the way that it works is the firm will determine the profit maximizing output level first, and then set the price to achieve that profit maximizing output level. And so the profit maximizing output level is a level where the marginal revenue, which is the additional revenue of an additional unit, is equal to the marginal cost. Okay. So let's look at an example of tickets to professional sports games. Now, this is not something we've talked about yet, but it's an important concept. So if you look at the demand and the marginal revenue for the tickets, it's normal downward sloping as you would expect. The marginal cost, however, is drastically different. The marginal cost of these tickets is 0 up to the point of capacity for that arena, for that stadium. Okay, in which case the marginal cost just becomes perfectly inelastic, which basically means you can't increase or decrease you can't increase or decrease quantity past that. So the question is, why is it like that? The reason why is that most costs in professional sports are fixed. And you can argue that pretty much all costs are fixed. And so you have players' contracts are fixed for the entire season. And these players get paid regardless on how many people attend the game. They need ticket people there. They need workers there, which is a relatively small part of the overall. It's a relatively small part of it. But most of those costs, which are player costs and coaches' costs, are fixed. And so because of that, regardless of how many people go to the games, regardless of how many tickets they sell, they still need to pay those contracts, pay those salaries. And so you have that zero marginal cost because there's no additional cost of having an additional person come to the stadium. And so what you do then is the profit maximizing output level is going to be where that marginal revenue equals the marginal cost, which is zero. And so you see that there at the profit maximizing output level being at 37,000. You then find the price such that at that price, people demand 37,000. And so you go up to where that quantity is the demand, and you can see that at $30, there will be 37,000 tickets demanded, which is where the firm maximizes their profit. Now, if this was perfect competition, on the other hand, where the demand equals the marginal cost of supply, the ticket price would be 20. So because these sports teams and these franchises and the leagues have this monopoly power, they have the ability to set ticket prices higher than will be set in the free market. Okay. Having said that, they don't do that. The reason why is that a lot of times they will want people to buy other things. So with sports, it's more of a broader picture. So all the revenue does not come from just the games. People buying tickets, they also buy concessions. They also buy merchandise. And so if people were paying, the most they could to go to the game, there'd be a couple problems. One, they wouldn't have as many fans because you would be driving people out of the market for that team. And two, they wouldn't be able to sell as much other merchandise, which helps the overall branding, helps them grow, so forth. And so if you look at this, a lot of times what they will do is they will set a price ceiling. Okay? And so a lot of times with different teams, the league will set a price ceiling for tickets because the league benefits by there being more fans. And with that, they want to have just a certain cap on how much the teams will charge so they can spend money elsewhere and so they can get more fans in. And so they're not just getting the high income fans, they're also getting the middle class and lower class as well. If you look more on the college level too, this happens. With college level, tickets for college games tend to be kept pretty low. The reason why is because most of the audience of those college games are low income individuals, and that is students who have very little income coming in. So a lot of times universities will keep ticket prices very low. They will put a very low price on it, okay, out of fairness for the students. Now, the problem with this system where prices are set below the market is that it creates a secondary market, okay? And that secondary market is where you have people reselling the tickets. And so things like StubHub are selling at the games. you can see to where tickets will be sold for dramatically more than they are sold for by the team. And unfortunately, the team cannot fully control this, although they've tried to at times with partnerships with some of these third-party sites, such as StubHub, SeatGeek, um, and so. But that problem is there. So, but again, this all goes along with the overall pricing strategy of the team, and again, with the teams having this market power because the leagues are monopolies, they have the ability to do this.